You know, in almost every ancient culture, you find these stories. Stories of a time before us, an age when the world was walked by beings of just, well, impossible size. So today, we're going to dive deep into the lore of these giants, from their strange celestial origins all the way to the last of their legendary kings.
So let's just start with this question right out of the gate. What if giants once ruled the earth? I mean, really think about that. What if the legends are more than just legends? What if these beings weren't just simple monsters, but were powerful clans and kings who literally shaped the ancient world?
To really get a sense of the scale we're talking about, I want you to look at this number, 13.5 feet. Now just burn that into your brain. Trust me, it's going to be really important in a little bit.
Okay, so where did these giants even come from? Well, their origin story doesn't start on the ground. It starts way, way up in the heavens, with a celestial rebellion, a forbidden pact that would change the course of human history forever.
And at the absolute heart of this rebellion, 200 of these celestial beings, yeah. According to ancient texts like the Book of Enoch, these beings, called the Watchers, came down from the heavens and landed on a mountain, Mount Hermon, with a single world-shattering plan in mind.
And their plan was, well, it was bold. Led by a high-ranking angel named Samyaza, they all swore this oath together. They were going to take human wives and have children with them. Now, this wasn't just breaking some minor rule. Oh, no. This was a deliberate shattering of the cosmic order, and it kicked off a chain reaction that created an entirely new race of beings.
But they didn't just bring themselves to Earth. They brought knowledge. I mean, forbidden, divine knowledge. The Watchers became humanity's first teachers of some pretty intense stuff. Samyaza taught sorcery. Azazel taught how to make weapons and armor. Kokabeel revealed the secrets of the stars. And another, Penemu, taught the art of writing itself. So, in a way, they jump-started civilization, but man, it came at a terrible price.
And that terrible price? It was their children. The offspring born from this union, they weren't human. They were something else entirely. They were the giants, and they grew to form these powerful and often really violent clans that just spread like wildfire across the land. They became known as the Rephaim.
And that word, Rephaim, is so key to all of this. It's the umbrella term, the broad name that these ancient texts used for all the different giant clans who came to completely dominate the region.
And believe me, these clans were feared for a reason. You had the Anakim, warriors so incredibly tall that enemy spies said they felt like grasshoppers standing next to them. You had the Emim, their name literally means terrors, and then the Amorites, who were described with this kind of poetic dread as being as tall as cedar trees.
But even among all these intimidating groups, one of them stands out as being particularly strange, and that's the Zamzamim.
Even their name is unsettling. It's believed to come from this weird buzzing or muttering sound they made, and some ancient writers actually speculated that this sound wasn't just a strange language, but it was somehow connected to the dark art of necromancy. Pretty creepy, right?
So from these clans, you get these legendary figures rising up, kings, champions, whose names are still echoing through myth and history. These are the individuals, the real A-listers of the Giant Age.
And first up has to be King Og of Bashan. He wasn't just some giant ruler. No, he's remembered as the last king of the Rephaim, the final remnant of this colossal, fading race.
Hey, remember that number from the beginning? 13.5 feet? Well, this is it. This is the big reveal. That wasn't King Og's height. That was the length of his iron bed. Just try to picture a bed that massive. It's one of those rare, tangible details from the ancient world that just gives you this breathtaking sense of his scale.
But, you know, not all giants are remembered as kings. Some are remembered only for how terrifyingly strange they were. And one of these figures is mentioned only as the unnamed giant, a figure that seems to be straight out of a horror story.
Which brings us to this next number, 24. Just 24. What in the world could that possibly refer to?
The source material describes this unnamed giant with one chilling physical detail. 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. A total of 24 digits. It's this deeply unsettling, unnatural feature that marked him as something truly other, a monster from a forgotten time.
All right, so moving on from myths and monsters, what was the actual physical reality of being a giant warrior? What was the literal weight of being that big?
Well, for that, we have to turn to the most famous giant of them all, Goliath of Gath. He was the Philistine champion, the absolute archetype of a giant warrior, whose sheer physical presence was a weapon all on its own.
And I want you to really think about the reality of his size, 125 pounds. That's not his body weight, nope. That was the weight of his coat of scale armor alone. I mean, that one detail just grounds this whole fantastic story in the heavy, clanking reality of forged steel.
But as we all know, no age lasts forever. The dominance of the giants, for all their power and all their terrifying size, was eventually challenged. And this is the final chapter of their story, the great reckoning between these titans and mankind.
So the final conflict really pitted the last of the great giant champions, guys like Goliath and his relatives, Ishbi-Benob and Saph, against the rising heroes of humanity, a group known as David's mighty men.
And the outcome? Well, it marked the end of an entire era. The ancient texts are very clear. One by one, the last of the great giant warriors were defeated. The Age of Giants was officially over. Which leaves us with one last massive question. When we look back at all these incredible tales, celestial packs, giant kings, monstrous champions, what are we really looking at? Are these just fragmented memories of a real, forgotten past? Are they powerful myths meant to explain the unexplainable? Or are they maybe timeless warnings about power, about transgression, and about the inevitable fall of all giants?